close it out. Ready? Okay. So the only difference from today, we're still going to factor the same types of trinomials, these things, except our first value, our a value, we've only ever seen a equal to 1, which means it was a little bit easier. So this first value right here is going to change. It's going to be something greater than 1, which is going to make it a little more challenging. We don't actually have to alter too much because of the way that we did it before. The technique that we used before is the same technique we'll get to use for this one, which makes it a lot easier. So the only way that you get that is if one of these first two values is something different. That's the only way you're going to get your x squared, that a value, to be something different. Which means our answers are going to look a little different because we've always seen x plus 3 and x minus 3. But if you multiply those first two terms together, that's why it's always 1. We're going to switch it up. We're going to do it so there's a number in front and it's going to give us an answer. So let's do this first one as a practice. Who remembers our diamond method? A and C on the top, right? And what goes on the bottom, Taylor? Right. So A times C goes on top. What's our A value? 2. And our C value? C value is -9, right guys? So it's -18 up top. And your B value goes on the bottom. That's your -3. And what numbers go on how to get -18? Because it's -9 times 2. It's A times C. Before this, we only ever really put the C value, right? We called it A times C, but A was always 1. So it's just the C. Now, how do you get these side values again?
What multiplies to be 18 and what adds to 3.
Yep, negatives, right? What multiplies to be -18 and what adds to be -3?
6.
Jocelyn, what do you think? Multiplies to be -18, adds to be -3. Yeah, you're close. -6 and 3. Because we want to add to be -3, right? So -6 plus 3 would give you -3. No, it would be -6 and +3. It can't be the other way around. If you went -3 and +6 and you added those together, you'd get +3. So that's the difference. So -6 and -3. Yep, +3 here. And that always gave you your values right here. That's how it always worked out. We broke up our middle part, and it always worked out nicely. Before you could, now you can't. So, what do we do now? We break that up, right? And what do we break it up into, Michael? We have to turn this -3x into something. -6x and 3x. That's what we turn it into. So we rewrite that like this. Once we did that, Dawson, what was the next step? Stan? We had to divide by grouping. So that was 2.7. And the first step of that was to do your line down the middle, right? So you drew your line down the middle. You took your greatest common factor out of the left side, and you took your greatest common factor out of the right side. When you do that, what's your greatest common factor here? This first half. 2x, yep. So you take out a 2x and you're left with x minus 3. The other side. What's our greatest common factor on the right side? Matthew?
3.
3. So plus 3 times x minus 3.
Oh.
Yeah. Now we're almost there. What do we have to do now?
We'll bring down the 2.
This is one part of your bracket, right? This is the other part of your bracket. Yeah. So you got 2x plus 3 times x minus 3. Where did I get those numbers? That's a good question. The 2x plus the 3 is what is left over when you factor x minus 3 out of both sides. So when you factored out this from both sides, you're left with 2x plus 3. Which is why it's now multiplication and not addition. Any questions?
Where do we do differently than the other one?
So what we're going to see differently that comes up. If you do this trick where you just plug it in, you can do some division. So I'll show you on the next one. Does that one work out nice? Yeah. Good. Okay. Let's just jump right into factoring again. Down here. What goes on the top? Yeah, 2 times 6. A times C. Reese. What would go on the bottom of this diamond? 7. So multiplies to be what, Carter? Multiplies to be 12 and adds to be 7. 4 and 3, right, Johnny? So there's some tricks to these ones. I'm going to show you guys a trick. So if you like doing it the way we did before, that works. Another way you can do these questions. If you look at this number right here, you should be able to divide it into one of these numbers. It divides evenly into 4, right? Yeah? So you divide that one by 2, and you can actually just start plugging in numbers. So, we know our final answer is going to look like this, right? Something times something, where the first things are x. But the only way we get a 2 is if one of these is 2x. A little meter. So we can just plug that in. If you like doing it the other way, stick with the other way. If the other way is confusing you, this is a different way of looking at it.
Right.
So we know our answer is going to look like brackets binomial times a binomial. We know that one of the terms has to be 2x because that's the only way we get that 2x squared up there. Now whichever one of these you didn't divide by 2, that becomes your number after the 2x. So that's plus 2. Your other one now, it's just x plus whatever's left over here when you did the division. When you did 4 divided by 2, what did you get left with? 2. That's easy, eh? Yep. No. So you just automatically set up your brackets. You put in your 2x. Because you know it's the only way you're going to get 2x squared is if one of these is 2x. your remaining numbers, that 3 is the one you didn't divide by 2 in the diamond. That 2 is what's left over when you divided the other side of the diamond by 2. And that'll give you the answer. You can show either way on a test, as long as you show this diamond, so I know that you were doing division. Yes, Matthew?
Did you know to divide that 4 by 2?
How did I know? It's just a trick that works out when you're factoring. Yeah. And sometimes the problem with this method that gets a little confusing is that you won't be able to divide the number. So this could have been something larger, and then you'd have to break it up into 2 things. And that gets a little bit tricky. That's why this method's a little harder. The other method is almost always foolproof, and you'll be able to work right through it. Yeah, Matthew?
Could you do that one the other way too?
Yep, you can do it the other way. And both way on a test will be right. As long as you show your diamond. Okay, let's try this one the first way again. What goes on the top, Hannah? Top of the diamond for this question. A times C. 10. And what goes on the bottom, eh? 7. Just your E value. The side values then, Taylor?
2 and 5.
2 and 5. We break up our 7x to be 5x plus 2x. Yes, Matthew?
When you turn it the other way, how would you end up dividing 5x?
So we don't always divide by 2. Here, I'll do it the other way too. So we'll do this question both ways. We're going to do it this way, and then we're going to do it the other way. So if you like this way, write the notes for this one. If you like the other way, write the notes for that one. If you're still not sure, then do both. You try your dotted line, right? What's your biggest factor on the left-hand side?
5.
5 what? 5x. You're left with x plus 1. What's your biggest factor on the right side? Just 2. So plus 2, and that leaves you with x plus 1. You take out your x plus 1 again, and your final answer will be 5x plus 2 and x plus 1. So that's doing it the way where we broke up the middle term. You want to see it the other way? Yeah? So if you liked it the other way, what you would have done is you would have made your diamond the exact same. Top value is still A times C. Bottom value is still B. You still broke it up into 5. You still broke it up into 2. Because those are still the same numbers. You need to look at this number right here. And divide it into that or that. Which one does it divide into? The 5. Yeah, it's pretty simple, right? So you just go divided by 5. So you don't always divide by 2, right? You divide by whatever your A value is. So our A value in this question was 2. Our A value in this one is 5. Like this one. Thank you. So the trick to this one is set up your brackets. Keep up your blue. We know one of our values is going to be 5x, right? And we know the other one's just going to be x. Now, how do you figure out which term goes here in this first blank? Johnny?
So, the diamond is like 5 2.
Yep.
Does it matter if 5 is left?
Nope, doesn't matter. It's your choice. What goes right here, guys? Right here. 2. The one that you didn't divide by. Oh. So whichever number you didn't divide by goes here. 2. We didn't divide the 2. on the right-hand side, what goes in this second spot? Plus 1. Whatever's left over from 5 divided by 5.
Okay, that way shorter.
That way is shorter, yeah. It's a little more confusing, but if you get the trick, it's really quick. This one's a little bit longer, but the beauty is we've never had to change anything. That's the same stuff we learned on 2.6. It just keeps getting extended, and it's the same thing. Yeah, Matthew?
Is that like the first answer?
Yeah. Yeah, that's your final answer. So if you're ever told to factor anything, that's what it should look like. If you're factoring a trinomial, it should be a binomial times a binomial. Maybe you took a greatest common factor out. Any questions on that? Two more. Try them on your own, whichever method you want, and I'll do them up on the board. You can check your answer and see where you're going wrong.
Get which one it is.
Okay, we had some problems, right? What's the top number of the diamond? 6. It came from 2 times 3. So most people seem to be able to get that. That's A times C. What's the bottom number? It's negative 7. If you put positive 7, your answers are going to be wrong. That negative stays with the B value. What multiplies to be 6 and adds to negative 7? Negative 6 and negative 1. Two ways to do it. The first way we're going to do is just break the middle one up into these two terms. So you rewrite it like this. It's the exact same equation. This first equation is the exact same as that equation, except I've changed negative 7x into negative 6x and negative 1x.
Now we have 2 ways of doing this. So first.
Just pick one. So whichever way you like, ignore the other one. Does that make sense? Like you do not need to know both ways. I won't ever ask you to do it exactly one way or exactly the other way. Do you like this one? Yeah? Then just stick with this. Don't worry about the other one. The other one confused me more. I like this one better. Now what do we have to do? So if you've gotten to this step and you've rewritten this properly, you have to draw your line down the middle. And you're going to take your greatest common factor to the left side and your greatest common factor to the right side. So Michael's saying 2x gives you x minus 3. Wait to go to the other side. Negative 1. X minus 3 is left over. He took out a negative 1 because he knew he had to get negative 3 in here. Because it has to be the same as this side. So x minus 3 is going to be one of your things. And when you take your x minus 3 out, what are you left with, Joe? 2x minus 1. You took your x minus 3 out, left with 2x minus 1. If you did it the other way,
What if it's still the other way?
so if you wrote that one first and that one second, still the same answer. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
Does everybody have the notes written down for this one? Because I'm going to erase it all.
Yeah.
Okay. Your diamond still looks the exact same. With the other method, draw out your brackets. Because you know that's what you're trying to get to. You're trying to get to a binomial times a binomial. Do you guys need to move back up front? Do you two need to move back up front? There's something funny's going on.
No.
You had that look in your eyes, Aiden. That
Oh,
grin.
it's
That
just-
grin.
I had to look at you. Oh, I was gonna sit down. I was
Funny
sorry. You
business.
stare at me. I'm gonna slap you. I'm really pretty guy.
That's fair.
Okay.
Joe's perked right up. Okay. So what goes in the brackets? If you're doing it this method,
Oh,
2x. You know one of your brackets is going to be 2x and the other one's going to be x. The 2 comes from right here. That's why we chose 2x. Now what's the next part? You have to do something to the numbers on the side of the diamond. You divide. What do you divide, Emily? Yeah, you have to find one of these numbers that's divisible by 2. -6 is divisible by 2. Yep, so that'll give you -3. And it goes on that side.
See, it's not the same way with less than.
Yep. And that's the way you like it, to do it that way. Whatever one you divided is the one that goes opposite the number with the 2. So it goes on the one by itself. And then what's your final number over here? -1. Like whatever's left.
solve the left bracket.
You solved, yeah. Pretty much. The left bracket, you just took 2, and you just took -1. You didn't really have to do anything else. Yeah, Murph. Yeah, Matthew.
Did you get the X from the negative separate lines?
In this method, the x is because we know that 2x times x would give you 2x squared. That's why it's just a single x. Which part? Like the other way? Okay, stick with the other way. And people are going to have different preferences. If you like, it just seems, it looks like it's less work. Yeah, it seems like a lot less work. So they do it that way. That's fine. Yeah. Joe.
So like, once you divide it, then I can by 2, right? The one which you divide it by always goes up the bracket.
Always goes on the other side. Yeah, always. Any more questions about this one? This question. You need to get used to asking yourself something when you start every single question. Is there a greatest common factor? 5. You can take a 5 out of here, here, and here.
Oh.
If you don't ask yourself that question first, you're not going to get it right. Because you're going to factor into 2 binomials, and then I'm going to write, you could have factored out more. So the first step is you take out your 5. What's the top number, Joe? -6. What's the bottom number? -2. Oh, sorry, you're right. 1. What am I doing? What are going to be your side numbers on the diamond? Joe. There. 3 and -2. Because we had to multiply to be +6 and add to be -7. The only way you can multiply to get a positive and add to get negatives is if they're both negative numbers. You guys seem to be liking the other way more. Trying to do that way. So I have to look at this number right here. 3. And I have to figure out which one of these 2 numbers it divides into. It obviously divides into that. I I know my answer is going to be brackets times each other. The 5 is still out front. So it's a monomial. So now I have a monomial times a binomial times a binomial. So since I took that 5 out, Dawson, it has to stick there the whole way. Because if I wanted to reverse it all, I'd have to multiply it back in. I'm going to put my first value is 3k, and my second value is k. I chose 3k because now. My value that I got here, my 3 times divided by 3, I put on this side. So 3 divided by 3 was plus 1. This number now comes over here. And that gives you your final answer. Yeah, Johnny?
Otherwise, it's just 3K, correct?
Why is it 3k here?
Why is it like this 3K?
Because when we FOILed, if we were to put it all back together, so if I multiplied, Johnny, this by this, your first 2 terms multiplied by each other would give you the k squared. It would be 3k squared. Come on. Nope. So leave the 5 out. That 5 stays there. Any more questions? Your unit exam is coming up next week, and it's going to feature a lot of factoring, because that's the key skill you need to move on in math. And we've already quizzed you on the easier stuff. I want to do this one with you guys, because doing it the easy way isn't going to work so nicely for this one. That's why we're going to do it. So what goes on top? And what goes on the bottom?
-8.
-8. What things multiply to be? What things multiply to be 12 and add to be -8? Maya. -6 and? There's a problem, right? Because what's our trick say? Our trick says to divide that into one of those 2 numbers. You can't. So that's going to be a problem. What's that, Matthew?
Switch to the other method.
Anything negative last.
So you could switch to the other method. Yep, you could do the other method, but if you want to keep doing this method, it is possible. It's going to get a little bit harder. So if you run into this problem, draw out your brackets the same way. Decimals won't work. I want you to put 12x into both of those. And then put in your values. -6. What we can do is we can break that 12 up into a couple of things. We can break it up into 6 and 2. And 6 would divide into this one, and 2 would divide into that one. So divide this one by 6, divide this one by 2. Which means wherever you see them line up, also divide by 6 and 2. So this one's going to be divisible by 6. This one's going to be divisible by 2. And then what are you left with? You're left with 2x minus 1, 6x minus 1.
really don't see the problem. Just
I didn't.
The way where we split the middle term up. Keep doing it. You can do it that way. You won't run into a problem.
oh, okay.
The only problem is if we try to do the trick. Yeah, Joe.
Oh, okay.
What's the question? Yeah, let's see. Okay, where am I? So let's take a look. So those of you who don't like this and want to now switch back to the easy way,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's a little more confusing, right? Okay. So if you want, yeah, and switch it up is fine, depending on the question. So you would rewrite this: 12x squared minus 6x minus 2x plus 1. Okay. Right, and then what did you do, Joe? Yeah, you drew a line down the middle and you factored the left and you factored the right.
Oh, no.
When you factored out the left, your greatest factor was 6x. What's left over?
1.
Johnny. 2x minus 1. What do you factor out of the right side, Ella? Negative 1. You're left with 2x minus 1. You're going to factor out your 2x minus 1. And you're left with 6x minus 1. Same answer, two different ways. Whichever way you prefer works. Go ahead, Dawson. You put it right here in the middle. You draw your little line down the middle, and then you're just doing greatest common factors. Is that easier? Yeah. Stick to that way then. I think it's hard if you're going to be jumping back and forth. That's hard. So it's going to take a lot of practice. I think it's better off to find a method and stick with it. I like this method because no matter what happens to you, you're still pretty much good. What would be the first step of this one?
Finding something that goes into
Finding something that goes into what? What do you call that? You're right. Yeah. So the first step would be to take a 2 out of all those numbers. Yeah. Good job, Michael. The rest of it's all the same. Nothing new happening. Okay, in your note booklets, you guys have